there's a lot of misconceptions about NFP. You know, people say stay out of NFP, don't trade into it and things like that. Well, have you actually tested it? Have you tested the last year and a half of data? Have you tested the last year and a half of the patterns? What happens around that time? Hello guys and girls, and welcome back to another episode on the Falcon YouTube channel. Hope you're all doing great and you've been enjoying the content. So today, what's going on? So we're filming a lot of content right now for Falcon behind the scenes, a lot of things, and we're revamping a lot of content from a beginners, intermediate, and an advanced level. So very excited to share things that we have in the works. So I've done a video previously on news. So news creates volatility, not direction. Now that got a lot of follow-up questions. So I thought I would just go into a bit more relevant detail of what I actually mean by that. It's not that patterns are deciding the macro picture. We're utilizing the patterns to give us an indication and focusing purely on the technical. So we're not confusing ourselves and trying to piece too many things together. So what do we have today? Well, we actually have NFP coming out today. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions about NFP. You know, people say stay out of NFP, don't trade into it and things like that. Well, have you actually tested it? Have you tested the last year and a half of data? Have you tested the last year and a half of the patterns? What happens around that time? What you'll usually find is around that time, there'll be particular patterns and the news creates the volatility and pushes it in that direction. And we actually had that previously with a trade that a lot of us are in the community, which is dollar yen. So I thought I'd give you an indication into what's happening right now. I think we've got NFP coming out in literally 5 or 10 minutes, something like that. So we'll revisit it and I'll give you my thoughts as it comes out, how I would be looking at it structurally, just to give you more of an insight on that. So we'll be taking you throughout today, give you a few insights, and I'll give you a quick update into the actual content that's coming out in the near future. So let's take a look at that now. Hey guys, so just on the charts at the moment, so I thought I would take you through the live thought process. So we're literally about a couple of minutes away, and currently in dollar yen. Good idea actually. What I'll do is I'll show you the before thought process, but this is the particular structure that we're looking at. So we've been looking at dollar yen for a sell for a while. This is a Falcon flag, this particular pattern that I discovered over years and years of testing. How far have we got? Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes till NFP comes out. So this one's running about 7% at the moment, it's running decently. But we're still looking at this bigger picture and looking for this to fill the wick. So I don't want to manage this too aggressively. I could lock in a little bit more. I'm just having a look at it now as NFP is coming out. So daily chart, daily structure looks good. So this is just a big continuation to play out. We do have this kind of double bottom formation in here as well. So if we do get any kind of volatility, this could push to the upside. I think the important thing to understand is that, remember, news creates volatility, not direction. And yes, sometimes NFP, it can spike you out, tag you back in and things like that. But the majority of the time, it's really just pushes it in the direction that we already expected. So we'll take a look at the DXY as well in a second. Just going to the 15-minute. So let's see as the volatility kicks in. So we have about a minute. So I've currently got it locked in here from a structural perspective at around 7, but I'm utilizing this pattern. And what I'll do now actually is I'll just lock this into the top of that pattern, which will be here for about 7.7. Let me get that exact. Yeah, so about 7.7. So that structurally for me, if this gets invalidated, I'm happy with that. You know, it's 0.7, that's fine. 7.7, happy with that. If this moves to the upside and it completely spikes back up, then we know something's changed. It's reacted off of this overall kind of double bottom because we are closing in that area, so we'll see. And I'll just give you my thought process into how I'd sort of manage that. What would be the thoughts? Because you could look at that and think, well, why don't you just lock in more profit? But again, I'm still looking at it as we could move all the way to the downside, so we'll see. Go to the 15. This one was actually executed on the 15-minute chart as well. And the thing is, what you need to understand is, you know, sometimes people think that, you know, if they've got a lot of things on, there's a lot of times where I have so many things on, but, you know, I can't pick and choose when, you know, I want to be more active in the market. The market does it for us. So you have to understand that sometimes in my busiest periods when I'm, you know, revamping content, property developments, all kinds of things, you know, the markets are super active and I have to be prepared. And this is why I wanted to show you more of the before part, because these kind of trades, they're planned, you know, sometimes weeks in advance. And that's the key thing that I want you to understand as a trader. Whatever strategy you're trading, make sure that you're planning these moves as in advance as possible. All right, so we're just starting to get some momentum, nothing too crazy just yet. Yeah, see, this is what I mean. I remember, just there's pretty much no volatility whatsoever, but I remember we'll actually quickly check a few other pairs where they react a bit more. Yeah, nothing just yet. I'm currently long on euro dollar as well. Pound dollar, nothing just yet. Let's have a look. Euro pound, I am looking at euro pound at the top of this structure. This is another trade that we were looking at. So that's getting very close for the double top. Pound Swiss is pushing a little bit lower. Pound Aussie is moving up. Dollar CAD moving up as expected. Yeah, so back to dollar yen. So nothing too crazy just yet, but of course we haven't finished the candle. Sometimes volatility come in a little bit later. But this is what I'm talking about. This is the exact thing. You know, it would have been funny if we had a huge move there, but this is what I'm talking about. People say, you know, don't trade into NFP, you know, don't trade into news and things like that, but that's because they don't understand what they're talking about. You're basing that decision off of, you know, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I'd agree with you. You know, we used to see literally from NFP 150 pip moves on pound dollar, euro dollar, very quickly. I understand you don't want to be whipsawed in, but right now, that's not happening. You know, go and test it for yourself. Go back and test every single month for the last 12 months, and then come back to me and then tell me, you know, what you discover. How many times did it actually play out in the direction that you already expected, if you understand patterns and things like that. So I thought it'd be important to showcase that with pretty much nothing at all, but we'll see how that goes. And yeah, what I'll do is we'll revisit this in about 15 minutes. I'll let you know what I'm going to do in terms of management, because it is on a Friday coming towards the weekend. This is another thing where people, you know, they want to close down profits and they think that, you know, everyone's taking their profits, so I need to close it down. You know, you cannot fear holding trades over the weekend or hold many trades over the weekend. But that's what I'm mainly looking at the moment. So we'll see how this one develops. Will I lock in any more profit on dollar yen? Again, going to the daily chart, I'm targeting this down here. So my target right now is about 22 to the low here, because I'm looking for this to fill the wick of the overall bigger picture, and this as one big impulse, and this as the correction as continuation. Crazy momentum from this move here. And again, this was just another move at the top here. I took this on the 15-minute chart that was executed, and this volatility from here could have put people off, right? Understand, one impulse candle should not put you off, because 80-20 rule. You have to understand, if 80% of it's corrective, then it's still a correction. So this is where people are getting trapped on the wrong side of the market. And what we're utilizing is patterns to understand how to deal with those. So again, we normally get more volatility than that. Very surprised at such low amounts of momentum, but you know, judging on a lot of the moves, this can just already be priced in. So the reaction's already done. This is why we haven't seen much momentum anyway. So that's looking good. And again, from a pattern perspective, yes, this has a slight descent to it. It's corrective, but this could form a running channel. I do think from a high time frame perspective, this has still much more to go. So any solid kind of continuation flag within there, Falcon community, of course, from a strategy perspective, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not familiar with patterns, then, you know, I suggest that you definitely learn. Some of you might even have something like this, have an expanding coming from the lows here, like so. But again, based off the bigger continuation, what happens now is important. And this is the message that I want to put across to you. It's what happens after is important. So for example, the next time you see, let's say, a breakout of a pattern, or maybe if you trade support resistance, things like that, when you see a breakout of the resistance, for example, then what I want you to think about is what happens next. So do we get a continuation or do we retrace? So what I mean by that is that when we break out of a pattern, you need a continuation to confirm more upside. So let's say, for example, we look at the DXY. If we look at the DXY right now, this is another great example. Structurally, to me, this is still a sell, right? We're still looking to come to the downside, just like we've been looking at this for a while. But if you had, let's say, a support and a resistance, for example, then you may look at this like this. If I just quickly delete this. So you may look at it like this. If I just speed that up. Is that a break? You know, we've closed there on the daily. That could confuse people thinking, well, look at that momentum. We've broken. Now I'm looking for a retest to go long. So it's what happens here is next. It's not so much that this can't happen and you can't obviously trade that way. But when you cannot just look at one candle and think, yep, going to the upside. This is how people get trapped on the wrong side of the market time and time again. This is what we focus on within Falcon. But what happens? We actually break back through, which is what we expected in the first place. So in order for this to really start moving to the upside, in order, in my personal opinion, for the DXY to keep moving, break above 100 and things like that, we would have some sort of bigger continuation. You would see price move like this before that has any length of momentum. And then this would be the impulsive leg, this would be the correction, there's the continuation. Do not get too caught in a bias, because when you're emotionally invested thinking, yeah, I think we've broken now, so we're going to keep breaking to the upside, you'll be humbled when you see this happen. So it's about understanding, remove the need to care which direction a particular trade is going to go, or an indice, whatever it may be, a commodity. When you detach yourself away from this need to understand or want to know, oh, be right or wrong, it's when your ego is involved, you know? When you want to be right, you know, well, my bias is this, and people get so emotionally attached, they get blindsided. So when something changes, they're so focused on the fact that, no, this had to happen, they will try to find ways to fit that picture, and they'll adjust it ever so slightly and say, yeah, I'm still looking for buys, because they don't want to accept that they're wrong. And that's because their ego's involved. But you've got to remember, we're playing a game of probabilities, not right or wrong. Very, very important to understand. This is something that I'm, you know, pushing every single week to ingrain it into people's minds within the community, because what I found is the most neutral traders are the best traders. What a coincidence, they happen to get better results because they don't care about what's happening. They understand this is a probability, this is the edge. If the DXY moves to the upside, who really cares? Are you prepared to take advantage of what that actually means? Well, we are, and that's what I'm focusing on. So for example, euro dollar. I'm currently long on euro dollar. But if we create a running channel here or a big continuation, do you think that I'm going to be blindsided and then think, well, you know, this has to go to the upside? Of course not. I'll take a message from the market, and if we get a bigger continuation, then I know we're going to drop. It's unlikely at this stage, because structurally, from what we've tested over a 30-year data, this will move to the upside, and then we'll see those buys. If we don't, the market will send us a message. And when the market sends us a message, then guess what? We're then able to capitalize. So it's just understanding that thought process. You know, when I'm trading, I'm not too focused on being in the market all the time. I'm focusing on the higher quality position. So yes, sometimes at the moment I am very, very busy when it comes to projects and businesses across the board, and even stuff like for the Falcon community, a lot of content that we're producing in the background. So I am very busy. Just so happens now we're moving into more impulsive conditions. Does that mean I'm not going to take the trades? Of course not. I'm still going to be involved in these positions because I plan. It's all about planning. This is why forecasting is almost underrated. Forecasting is the most important thing, because I'm prepared. Like the dollar yen position. I took that position in my mind 4 or 5 days ago. I'm already ready. So when it presents itself, I'm not hesitating thinking, oh, this, I'm not sure about this, I might wait to NFP. Forget that. Structurally, what's the structure saying to me? When you go and backtest, are you saying to me that whatever strategy you're trading, you've backtested every single news announcement when you've actually taken that trade? I guarantee you haven't. So why are you being paralyzed by little bits of news and then kind of just hearing people say, oh, NFP, stay out of that, and then you haven't even backtested it yourself over the last year? Remember, the market changes, the market evolves, and you need to adapt. And for you to base your decisions based off of things like what used to happen in the market, then of course you're going to get hurt. It's just like things like support resistance EMAs. There are times where it works really, really well, but there are a lot of times where the market's evolved and you're getting more and more people trapped on the wrong side of the market. 90% of the people in the market fail. 90% of people trade support and resistance, or they don't know how to trade it, right? There's only a few select people that I personally know and experience that trade that way that actually do well. So why is it such a small percentage that seem to do well trading that way? Why is that? It's because there's so many other things like pattern identification and things that I would recommend that you include that's going to give you the best possible chance to succeed. That's just my personal opinion. If you are trading that way and you're doing okay, I recommend you at least have some level of pattern identification, because that's going to help you massively. So euro dollar, I'll leave that one for now. Let's see if we've had really any impact. Not really. There was a scaling that I missed this morning, but it was pretty early and I was up really late last night, so I didn't manage to get that one. So I would have been involved in this again from here, which I'll still be in the trade right now. Some people would have taken that as a risk entry. Reduced risk entry, you probably took it as a break even, but it looks like we're forming another continuation to head higher, but we'll see. If we start to drop now, worst case scenario, I've got a couple of percent locked in myself, so happy to take that. It's very, very close as well. So we're like, you know, a few pips or so away, but we'll see. And now we're starting to get a bit of a rejection. So we're literally 3.5 minutes away from closing on the 15-minute candle. So what I like to do is I like to wait for the 15-minute candle to finish, especially after NFP, because that normally is a lot of the noise, and then that's done. But I personally think, because a lot of this has already been priced in from that volatility, That's why there wasn't as big as a reaction. Now, people can put it down to all kinds of things of data and things like that, but look, I don't care about that kind of thing. I'm focusing just on the price structure and what that's telling me from my own experience. So I'm really happy with that. I'll leave that over the weekend. As long as we don't get any violent pullbacks, well, I'm happy with 7.7 anyway, but for example, if we get any kind of pullback to here, well then guess what, if that's corrective, that's another opportunity to get short anyway. So from a structural perspective, nothing has changed whatsoever. And one more thing, let's have a look, euro pound very quickly. Yes, that's getting close as well. So we are very, very close, and we'll be utilizing this particular correction. This needs a bit more development, nothing too crazy, but we are at the top of a particular structure here. But again, what we have to understand is that this, you have to be on your management game here. You can take this for a sell, but you've got to remember that can develop into a big continuation because we've come from an impulse now. Very important. So this trade is more about, can I take it for a sell? You can, but can you manage it? That's more the question that I want to put towards you. So I'm personally going to be looking for that for a sell. That would mean pound Swiss moves to the upside. But I mean, the more and more you look at pound Swiss right now, if you take a look at that, that's still dropping. No indication of any turnaround just yet. No need to try and catch the bottoms or the tops or anything like that. What have we had on the 4 hour? Well, we've had a running channel. So as you can see, descending structure, which a lot of you would know as a reversal, but we get a continuation at the end of it. So it's no surprise that it's dropped. So what I would see in this situation, if it's dropped here, if it's going to reverse, then it will form a descending channel and it will be an extension of what we already have, and then we'll move up. If not, this momentum will carry on, and then we'll likely see euro pound keep pushing to the upside. And that's fine. We'll take a big message from the market. You know, you're not going to be correct every single time, and it's really not about being correct or wrong. It's probabilities. That one didn't work out, then you move on. But for now, this is looking good. Let's see if we fill the wick. So we are just closing up now in about a minute or so, but yeah, I don't see anything changing too much. But yeah, I hope that helps anyway. You know, in a different scenario, I'd like to do more of these sort of updates, especially when volatility comes out. I'll make a bit of a habit to film around the volatility so you can understand the thought process. Even if that was big volatility and it pushed up to the upside and I got taken out and, you know, and I banked it, it's fine. You know, you move on. You just understand when things change, you reassess. I think this is the most important part as a trader. I think sometimes we're so focused and sold on the idea of what trading actually is, but some of it is actually it can be quite tedious. It's just about planning, doing the same thing over and over again, having particular routines. Sometimes you're frustrated. Sometimes you wake up, for example, this morning, I woke up too late. Why? Well, I went to sleep at 1 a.m. because I was focusing on other things and I wasn't up at 5:30. And if I was up at 5:30, then I would be involved in euro dollar for a scaling. Yes, this one would have probably taken me out for break even, but so be it. If that one was running at 4 or 5%, then it would be a different story. So you have to understand that trading sometimes can be difficult, but it can be enjoyable when you have the right planning in place. That is the biggest thing. It's the biggest thing for me anyway. But yeah, guys and girls, I hope you've enjoyed this part of this episode. If we have anything more to share today, I'll just give you a few insights, but I thought this would be a great opportunity to do that. Hey guys, so I thought I'd just check back in. So just after NFP, tiny little bit of movement, nothing too crazy. I actually nearly got tagged out for the 7.7. So it was close. It was literally by pretty much a few pips. That does happen sometimes. So now, what is the thought process on dollar yen? What should we do? Well, when I look at it like this, we're running at about 11.5%. Where do I want to keep it? Well, the good news is we have something to go off of. So originally it was about 7.7, where now it's unlikely. Now we've had that wick. That's really pushed and washed everybody out at this point. So now running here, do I just want to leave it at 7.7? Do I want to lock in a little bit more? Well, we don't want to be too aggressive because we do have a slightly longer term play on the cards. What I'm personally going to be doing is locking this to 8.5, and I can be more aggressive at this point. It's above that wick just in case we create more of a deeper correction and then head lower. And I do want to manage this a little bit more aggressively because it's not a super longer term trade, you know, it's only this push down. If I was, let's say, buying from here and, you know, there was a longer term approach to it, that would be different. But this is only a short term play, and we do have that double bottom there that could evolve into something else. So we'll see. So I will lock in that to about 8.5. I'll just show you something else on charts in just a second. So happy with that. In terms of any other positions, euro dollar. So what's that looking like? So euro dollar still running nicely. What are we running at now? So yeah, about just under 3%, nothing too crazy. Again, I'll leave that one because it's about the longer term picture here. And if we close strongly on the daily, that'd be very, very nice. Let's see what the weekly is looking like. We'd have a solid projection there as well, which is decent. And again, I think the momentum will kick in now, I really do. So these are just a couple of positions. The last couple of months for me personally has been slightly on the lower side. So returns have been a lot lower. And that was just due to the corrective period. A lot of trades that I personally missed out on as well is what it is. You're not going to be able to consistently perform at that level for a long period of time. There's always going to be peaks and troughs. But again, don't judge yourself on, a couple of months of performance or even half of your year, especially if you're learning, because you're making a lot of growth. And the market waits for nobody, it really does. So dollar yen, great position, played out very nicely. Very, very simple one to manage, if I'm in all honesty. There's going to be a lot of times where trades are far more difficult to manage. There's going to be deeper pullbacks than you expected and things like that. But it's just about being ready. It really is. So for me personally, dollar yen, not too much more to go after that. Euro dollar will be the main focus. Pound dollar still hasn't shown us any signs just yet. But if we get that bigger move to the downside on the DXY and we get a push, then pound dollar long, the longer term play and the value that we can attach to that is going to be huge. But try not to catch the bottoms and catch the tops. That's where a lot of people go wrong in the industry as a whole, trying to catch the bottoms and the tops. Remember, you can wait for the first commitment of the market. Wait for the market to give you permission before you actually start to just get involved based off of what you think all of the time. Let the market come to you. But overall, it's been a great day, great start to the month actually, which is awesome. And I can just really feel the momentum picking up within the market. I think now, so we've got August, September, October, November, December. It's going to come around very fast. So the focused individuals are going to be the ones that really, really take off. So I've got some questions actually come in recently within the last hour about things of our style, how we trade and things. Just wanted to cover a few points here. So I've got the opportunity. So if you're trading a particular style and let's say if it's support and resistance and it's working for you, you might be wondering, oh, can I add in pattern identification and things like that? You can, but it won't be the full Falcon strategy and there will always be limitations. So my biggest advice to you, if you're trading a strategy and it works for you, whether it be support resistance, whether it be some kind of indicator, volume indicators, just price action, whatever it may be, stick to one thing. Stick to one thing and just work with it. Put your own little twist on it sometimes, because that always helps because it's tailored to your personality. But don't just because you see, traders in Falcon, you just jump in and chop and change and become a system hopper, because that doesn't work either. You have to be committed to one line of thing, because every strategy can work for you. We've just seen within the Falcon community a higher success rate. That's all it is, I'm very, very proud of a lot of people right now, the individual in particular that I know that's been persistent, that I'm not going to mention his name just yet because he might not want me to, but he's been persistent for so long and it made me reflect on the community. I remember, hadn't had a lot of breakthroughs for a good 6-7 months, loss after loss, doing the break-even dance, constantly just flirting with the idea. And then guess what? It's the persistent ones are the ones that usually succeed, because it took a longer time, took pretty much a year, and now he started to break through. Gone from losing to then break even, to then 2 or 3% for the month, then 3-4% for the month, then another 5% for the month, and then suddenly hit the bigger breakthroughs where he gets into the double digits. It's no coincidence that the person who just persists a little bit longer, that's dedicated to make that one little tweak, no matter what strategy you're trading, is the one that succeeds. I think the biggest issue in this industry is a whole people just give up. They're so weak and frail. They let 6 months of their time in the markets put them off, and they think, I can't do this, I'm getting a bit frustrated with this now. Well, guess what? That same mentality that you've got for trading, let me know how you get on when you start a business. You'll be humbled very, very quickly. It's the same thing. You have to develop a stronger mindset. And this is the best place to do that, because with trading, if you're not working on other areas of your life, then one discipline affects another. So very, very important to be switched on. So this is more of this episode is more just free and, raw while we've been doing a lot of things. But I thought this is a great opportunity to share some insights that people don't talk about that much. Remember, trading can be very, very rewarding, but the work has to be put in, and your journey is going to be very different to somebody else's. And if you're going to get frustrated because you see somebody else, oh, well, they only done it for 6 months and now they've quit their job. You cannot compare your situation to them. If I done that, after year 2, why didn't I just give up? And all of my family saying to me, why are you doing this? Year 3, year 4, 4.5 years. It took me a very, very long period of time. So it's the persistent ones that are dedicated to make the tweaks, not just persistence alone, but persistence in the right areas. Those ones break through. So just some words of advice for you guys and girls that are in the trading space as a whole. Whatever strategy you trade, I hope you're doing fantastically well and you're always growing as a trader. So what's coming next? So we're working on 3 things, like I said: beginners, middle, intermediate and advanced level content. So I'm excited for all of them because they really do serve their place. And even sometimes the beginner to intermediate stuff, even for you more advanced guys and girls, it still gives you a refresh, and sometimes you forget little basic things that actually are very, very effective. So excited to roll those out. We've just launched the Falcon Christmas party. So for the community, we do this every year. So it's going to be in London again. Very, very excited. And for those of you that haven't already, I highly recommend that you secure your tickets. We do have a limited amount of them as the venue is limited as well. So excited to see you all there. And again, that's going to come around very, very fast. Just taking a look at that. So we've had the close now. Yeah, that's fine. I'll leave that. I'll completely leave that. That's absolutely fine. So it will come around very, very fast. It really will. And we've got like literally 5 months until the end of the year. And now we've had that slightly slower period in the markets. Momentum is going to pick up hugely. And you're going to see a lot of things. They're probably not going to pull back to areas that you expect. So it's important to understand these pattern identification so you can take advantage fully of those moves. But again, I hope you've really enjoyed the content. We've got some great things coming in the works. But have an incredible weekend, and I appreciate you watching. And just remember to like, comment, and subscribe as always. We're going to be doing some giveaways here soon as well. So I want to make sure that you're in the loop. So stay tuned.